And good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Wellness Watch. My name is Dr. Laurel Wilkinson, and I am the operator of the Wilkinson Wellness Lab. And tonight, as we have on other nights, we were going to talk about a very serious topic that's impacting our youth in particular in Alabama. But this is something that is happening across the country and around the world. Um, it's important to highlight that in the state of Alabama, a reported 9,000 youth during the year of 2020 through 2021 were both homeless while in school. And these youth, although 85% of them were living with family, doubled up in perhaps a single home dwelling, youth are also reporting and their families are also reporting being living in shelters, living in hotels and motels, living in unsheltered areas such as cars or parks, trailers, cars, abandoned houses. And so this is a topic that I think I want to thank the student interns this evening for highlighting this topic and really wanting to bring this to our attention. Leading this charge is Angela Wilson. She's a student intern with the UAB Community Health and Human Services Program, and she is joined by other student interns, Regina Dotson, Jessica Fagan, Ashley Peoples, and Amanda Banco. Tonight's discussion, again, is going to cover homelessness in our children, helping them to find a home. And, we appreciate you engaging on a Friday night or, watching this when it's recorded. You can find these wellness watches on our Facebook page at Wilkinson Wellness Lab. We also have a YouTube page by the same handle. And you can find this and other good, helpful information on www.wilkinsonwellnesslab.com. So, Angela, the floor is yours. Go ahead and begin.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson, for the opportunity to discuss homeless children in Alabama. And thank you to our Facebook audience for joining us. Again, I'm Angela Wilson. I'm an intern student at UAB, and has already introduced my awesome panel here. So I'm going to dive right into our subject matter. I am going to be asking my fellow interns questions regarding this subject that we're discussing, but let's get into it. First, I want to acknowledge that homeless children are not just confined to the state of Alabama. This crisis is spread to nearly every city in our country. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, there are approximately 2.5 million homeless children living in the United States right now. That is one out of 30 American children. I also want to offer you some statistical data on the state of Alabama and their poverty rate, because I feel that this is an important piece when discussing homeless children in our state. According to Alabama.org, Alabama is the sixth poorest state in the country. Over 714,000 Alabamians live in poverty, which includes 220,000 kids. Alabama has 67 counties, and 7 of them have poverty rates higher than 25%. 2 counties in Alabama, Perry and Bullock, have poverty rates that are higher than 30%, which is astounding. There are only 2 counties in the state of Alabama that have a poverty rate of less than 10%, and those are Baldwin and Shelby County. African Americans and the Hispanic population are disproportionately impacted by the poverty rate, as 1 out of 4 African Americans experience homelessness, and also 1 out of 4 Hispanic Americans experience homelessness. So I'm going to ask my panel the first question. We hear the word homeless used quite frequently, in our everyday lifestyles. But what exactly do we mean when we say homelessness it is relative to our children. And I'll go to Regina first.
Okay. Um, the United States Department of Education and the urban development defines homeless children and our youth as children who lack a fixed or regular or adequate nighttime residence. Um, this this also includes children who are sharing the housing of other people due to an economic hardship. So, those people that kind of live a nomadic life where they're, going from place to place or sofa surfing because they don't have a fixed address or a fixed place to call home.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Jessica, what
Well,
are the definitions or your definition of
you
homeless
know, when you
children?
think of homelessness and children, you typically think of a child just sleeping on a park bench on the side of the street, up under a bridge. But a child can also be sleeping in a shelter, a hotel, or motel. I volunteer at the Salvation Army once a month in the kitchen, serving meals to the residents at the shelter. Every month, I'm going to at least see one child. So it's very sad, and this is a great discussion that we're talking about because it is real.
Absolutely. And thank you for your volunteerism efforts at the Salvation Army. I know that it is much needed and I'm sure that it is much appreciated. Let's go to Amanda.
Well, thank you so much, Angela. And thank you for this topic on this subject, because it's definitely something we see a lot of in Birmingham. But like Jessica said, it doesn't always have to be necessarily homeless, where they may have a roof over their head. But another thing that I think gets maybe not as considered, or people who maybe live, they're living out of their car, even for a short time frame, people who are living in gas station bathrooms, train stations, things like that. I know when I've traveled many times, you see those people, you see people sleeping under underpasses or overpasses rather. And, you can go to a park and you see somebody has made a little bed. In fact, when I worked at UAB, my colleague and I were walking to our cars and we passed this little makeshift tent under one of the student bridges. So it's right under our noses. It's right in, it's right here in Birmingham. And, I think that, I think it's definitely, the more you look for it, the more you see.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is under our noses, and we probably don't even have to look very far to see a lot of it. Thank you for that response. Ashley, what is the definition of a homeless child?
Um, I believe that the definition of a homeless child is a child that does not have a safe space. They don't have somewhere to go that they can call their own. No privacy, not able to get the proper rest that they need. And a lot of what we see on an everyday basis that we may tend to overlook or not pay attention to. I used to work at UAB myself, and on my lunch break, seeing a lot of people who may not have anywhere to go, maybe sleeping outside, or even rambling through trash to find something to eat.
Wow, absolutely just dire events there. And I think when you mentioned the safe space, that is so important, along with having the shelter, that shelter needs to feel safe. And that's an important component. Thank you all for all your responses and for clarifying the definition of homelessness. I think as many of you mentioned, we typically envision homelessness as park bench style, but there are some other legal, state and federal definitions of homelessness that fit, the criteria. So I'm going to move on to my next question. Why is having adequate housing for children so important? I'm going to go to Regina first.
I would think this is very important for to have adequate housing for children to feel safe and stable housing. Children that live in stable housing have fewer physical and mental health problems. Can you imagine you're worried about someone maybe approaching you in a vulnerable location as opposed to having a fixed home that you feel relatively safe in? So can you imagine as an adult what a child may feel? So
Right.
and that is important to have adequate housing for them and that stability there.
Right. Absolutely. That safety component has come up quite frequently. Um, Jessica,
I
same
would say
question.
children, yeah, thank you. I would say children who have adequate housing have, better chances of having a healthier diet.
Mm,
Just having a stable home, they'll be able to plan and be able to have regular healthy options available on a regular basis.
absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Amanda, why is having adequate housing important for our children?
Well, Angela, when we first started this, you had mentioned that a lot of the homeless children are in school, and, I think about how they could possibly perform well in school when they are, fighting for their lives, in situations that, most of us can only imagine. I think about the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, and that's a reality. I know that Will Smith was in a movie, but that is a reality, holding that bathroom door closed with your foot so that your child can sleep. There are so many parents that go through that and more nightmarish, things of that nature. So and then that child's expected to go and pay attention for 8 hours the next day or take a test, or and they're in dirty clothes, their hygiene is unkept, kids are probably teasing them. I mean, it's a recipe for failure in the school systems, and that's going to definitely set a precedence through life for them that they don't deserve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I saw that movie with Will Smith, and my eyes were just streaming with tears because it was so real. And although we know it's Hollywood, but like you say, those are some realities for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Ashley, why is having adequate housing for children so important?
Having adequate housing for children is very important because when we think about sleep, we often don't consider sleep as a hygiene or think about it, but it is.
Mm,
Sleep hygiene is very, very important. If we don't have enough sleep, especially a child, they can't function the way that they need to.
Mhm.
There's no structure for them. They may not perform well in school, and then infectious diseases. Um, Not being somewhere where you have access to maybe some polysporin or a band-aid to cover a cut that could become worse if you don't have those items. Not having somewhere to rest if you're not feeling good. So having adequate housing is very, very important.
absolutely. I love some of the examples that you gave with getting something as simple as getting a cut, you know, to a child who is homeless could turn into something, much bigger because then they don't have the access to the proper care to get that cut healed or treated or whatever. So, great response from all of you all. Thank you very much. So having adequate shelter and housing is really one of the most fundamental necessities for children, which leads me to my next question. What are some factors that contribute to homelessness in children?
According
Regina.
uh, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the National Alliances to End Homelessness, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, a rise in female-headed households or single-parent households where there is little to no child support or second income to compensate for a lack of additional financial support. are some contributing factors, as well as an expansion of the low wage economy and low wage work is as a primary means of support. So those are all things that contribute to the homelessness factors that should be considered why someone is incapable of fully taking care of their child. Just not having the financial stability.
Right, absolutely. You mentioned, I think single parent or single female head of household. We can imagine that, two incomes or two pieces of financial support would definitely be much better than one. So next, Jessica.
I would say parental substance abuse. You know, parents may use drugs or addicted to drugs, may use their money to buy their drug of choice versus using their money to pay their rent or pay their bills, pay their mortgage. I was reading an article from the Voice of Orange County. It's not Alabama, but it still applies to our state that drug abuse is one of the most defined causes of homelessness. And we cannot reduce homelessness unless we address the root cause, which is drug abuse in our community. And it's so heartbreaking that our children are silent sufferers because their mothers, having to hide them, into shelters, motels, and on people couches from here to here. Because, since they're doing drugs, they have to hide them because of social services becomes involved. Their children could be taken away from them. So, it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, sometimes the children suffer the ramifications of their parents' actions. As you said, the substance abuse is a huge issue. Amanda.
I would agree with Jessica that, substance abuse is definitely a huge player in the homeless population, particularly with children. But I would also go a step further to say incarceration. Somebody very close to me actually substitutes at a local school, and there was a young man who was not, you could tell he was not bathing, he was not changing his clothes. And, this particular person has a very big heart. So she approached the little boy and asked what was going on. And it turns out that mom has a substance abuse problem and dad's in jail. And, we talked about earlier, about the home structure. But if you're in a home, because at that point their power had been turned off, their water had been turned off. So essentially they're in one step above a box, they may have a home by traditional, 4 walls and a roof, but they're not living in a home. And so, I think that that, and then on, Jessica made me think of this too, when she was talking about hiding your children. So not only, are parents having to hide their children from the system because of choices they may be making, but also, some are having to hide from abusers. There are women out there who are having to make the decision between staying in an abusive situation, be it a partner, a father, a spouse, whatever, and taking their chances out on the street with them and their young child, and as a mother, I can't imagine how horrific making that decision would be. But I think that there's a lot of correlations between diseases / choices, the parents are making versus, the child homeless rate.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think you illustrate a great point by saying that the home, without the necessities is pretty much a box or a shell. They need the necessities that come with the home, like the water, shelter, not shelter, water, electricity. Sorry about that. Food and things of that nature to complete the picture. Okay, Ashley.
So some of the risk factors that I feel that are for homelessness in children, sometimes it may be not having enough money in the household. I come from a single parent household, and sometimes when there's not enough money, there has to be a choice between What are we going to eat today? How much? Some people may have to choose if they're going to eat a lot that week, if they will eat that week, what bill is due, gas money. A lot of times we don't think about how expensive toiletries are, especially for young ladies who need feminine products. So all of that goes into play because one of me and my friends were talking about the expenses of things, and especially being female and the things that you need and how expensive they are. So definitely income is a huge factor.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Thank you all for those responses. It seems like there's a lot of variables that may contribute to children being homeless. And unfortunately, a lot of them are through no fault of their own. So I'll go to my next question now, and it is a two-part question. What does the state of Alabama have in place to combat this issue? And is there anything that we can do as citizens to help these children who are homeless? I'll go to Regina first.
I was kind of pleased to find out that the state of Alabama do have some assistance that they do have to address this issue. One being the One Roof, and it serves the Bessemer, Birmingham, Hoover, Jefferson County, Shelby, and St. Clair counties. That was just, just to know that it is resources out there. And I think us having this discussion is very important to get that information out there, because not necessarily, just imagine being homeless and not having access to anything, just a few nights out of a week, just to, feel safe to sleep, having those resources available.
Right.
To answer the second part of your question, I do think we as individuals need to adapt the village mentality back and bring it back, because we can definitely help each other. I know when I was first, homelessness is not a new word out there, but when I was first really aware of it as an adult and working at UAB, which is, UAB is centrally located downtown Birmingham. And I was brought face to face with a young lady eating out of the trash can, and it just floored me. And I beckoned her over to my car, and I gave her money. And but still she returned back to the trash can and was eating out the trash can. So it just provoked thought of what can I do to help, in my own way. And so I started packing bags, having like a purse filled with toiletries that I went to the Dollar Tree and purchased. And I put, things like socks, feminine products, toothpaste and everything, things, combs, things that we use daily that we don't think of somebody having trouble having access to. And I put a little bit of money, like $5 in it. And, she was the first person that I gave that type of bag to, but I definitely keep those type of bags in my car now, because she's not the only one. Unfortunately, she's not. And so we have to, we have to step up as individuals and do something.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing that and being a part of that village that you spoke about. And also letting everybody know that, you can get some of the necessities to help some of these children from Dollar Tree or Dollar General. You don't have to, go to Belk or JC Penney. These things are readily available, and a little bit can go a long way. Thank you very much for that. Jessica.
That was awesome, Regina. That idea, I like that idea of us being a village. I like that. Also, in the state of Alabama, they awarded $2.8 million to enable regional agencies to help Alabamians who are at risk for homelessness. So it's good that our state is taking initiative to combat this issue. And us as citizens, what we can do to help this issue is consider being foster parents, or consider, being a part of the foster care program. On the DHR website, it says approximately 6,000 children are in the foster care system here in Alabama. And I wrote a blog, it's on the Wilkinson Wellness Lab, says there is hope, foster care parents are needed. So you guys check it out on wilkinsonwellnesslab.com. But like I said, it's approximately 6,000 children in foster care, and we only have 2,360 number of homes here in Alabama. But I've been a foster care parent for like going on 2 years. I get calls weekly about, what needed, children needing homes. So
Right.
I encourage you, if you have space in your home and space in your heart, consider being a foster parent because there's so many kids that need stable homes. All you have to do, you could go to the website, DHR website, and fill out an inquiry form, just to even just consider it, or even just, look at more information about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that information. And thank you for being a foster parent. I mean, that math that you gave is pretty alarming. 6,000 children,
Mhm.
2,360
Homes.
homes. Yeah,
Mhm.
the math just ain't mathing. So we definitely need more people like you to entertain the possibility of, taking some of these kids in,
Right.
Thank you. Amanda. Is Amanda, did she leave?
I think it may have dropped. It may
Okay.
have dropped.
Okay, so we'll go to Ashley and hopefully Amanda will be back with us shortly. I know we're having some issues since it's storming outside with the internet and whatnot. So we apologize for that and hopefully we'll get Amanda back in here. But Ashley, you can go ahead and answer that question.
Okay, so I've definitely had a lot of different encounters. We've seen a lot of homelessness. Working at UAB myself, there are oftentimes when I would go on my lunch break from work, see someone rambling through the trash to get something to eat, or laying on the ground. And there are many different things that we can do to combat this issue. The state of Alabama has many different programs in place. And in Montgomery, it was announced that the Alabama Department of Human Resources has a partnership with foster programs to address homelessness. And if it is in your heart, I agree with Regina, you can definitely give someone money to eat. A lot of times at my church, if we have food left over, we'll take it down to a shelter. Just stopping to take the time to see what we can do to help. I definitely agree with fostering children. I have a family member that was fostered by his grandmother when his parent wasn't able to have custody of him. But I definitely agree with that. There are a lot of different things that can be done, and it just takes us taking the time to open up our hearts.
Absolutely. And thank you for making the church component visible. Most of us do have a home, a church that we attend, and they could play a huge role in, helping this issue. Is Amanda back with us? No? Okay. Well, thank you all for those valuable resources. It's certainly reassuring to know that there are several agencies out there that are addressing this issue, and we as citizens have a role as well. Oh, hold on a second. Is Amanda back? Amanda, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm trying to give you the opportunity before we close it out to answer the last question. I know we've had some issues with connectivity due to the weather, but can you hear us now?
I think it's a delay on her end,
Okay.
Angela.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we'll just wrap up. Like I was saying, it's reassuring to know that these agencies that you all mentioned are addressing this issue, and it looks like the office of the governor has definitely stepped up and provided additional funding for shelters to help with our homeless children population. And like I said, we have a role to as citizens, and I would encourage all of you to get involved and, be that village that Regina spoke of. I absolutely love that. She's carrying around socks and toiletries and different things of that nature in her vehicle just in case. I love that. Thank you all so much. I hope y'all would do our part in making sure that this information is shared. I think we can all agree that every child should have a stable, safe environment. And I look forward to the day when all children have a path that leads home. That wraps up my our discussion, and I am going to turn it back over to Dr. Wilkinson.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Angela, for leading this discussion tonight. This is a very important topic, and the way that you working with each of the other panelists to bring forth tonight's discussion is wonderful. Thank you so much. This is it is a sad such a sad topic, to know that 9,000 of our children who are in schools are also experiencing homelessness, and it's more than 9,000. That's just what we have reported here in the state of Alabama. Understanding that we can all engage individually by serving in shelters, by supporting organizations, working with food banks, working with our faith-based institutions to support those who need supporting. It's really important for all of us within the communities to engage in our health and human services infrastructure, so that we can support our most vulnerable among us. And it's encouraging to know that from the federal level to the state level to the community level, that our federal government, state government, local municipalities, and nonprofit and even for-profit organizations are coming together to support the needs of the community, needs just like this. And y'all, we one of the things that y'all highlighted, and I just want to reiterate again, is our ability to engage with our schools, to encourage and support our schools, because they're on the front lines working with our children. They see the needs each and every day. And so, y'all highlighted that tonight, and I'm certainly grateful for y'all's work and y'all's energy on this conversation. A great big thanks to you out there as well, engaging on a Friday night or supporting us by sending and posting and reposting and sharing this video tonight. Want to encourage everybody to do that so that we can be informed and encourage one another as we address these issues within our community. And I also just want to say that if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions for topics that we can discuss here at the Wilkinson Wellness Lab, please send us an email at wilkinsonwellnesslab@gmail.com. We'll be happy to address any of the concerns here in our community within the Southeast. And also a recording will be placed here on our Facebook page, right? This live event is recorded. So feel free again to share this event within your circles, within your friend network, on your personal and public feeds. And also this will be placed on our YouTube channel, so you can share our YouTube channel and share this important topic again. Thank you for engaging. Thank you to Angela for leading this discussion. Thank you, Regina, Jessica, Ashley, and Amanda for your work this evening. And as always, have a wonderful evening, everyone, and let's live well and be well. Have a great one.